Hey folks, today on Mr. Roberts' Neighborhood we are looking at a house that is from 1910, and you are going to hear a beep just a few times from a smoke detector that I couldn't get to stop beeping. It's like that episode from Friends. But today I felt like we needed to see a house. And if you live in the Greensboro area, you could be with me in this house. There it is. You could be with me in this house looking at it together. If you are not in the Greensboro area, you get to see it on this video and think, man, I wish Zach Roberts were my real estate agent. You could move to North Carolina and I would gladly be your real estate agent. Or where you are, I can also make recommendations because I'm part of a team that has agents all across the United States. So if you ever need a real estate agent recommendation, just ask. If you look around, you see a house that has tons of character. Did you hear the little bell on the front? It's a little manual turn bell. I love that. I want one now for my house. The house I live in is almost the same age. I live in a home from 1908, and I love old homes. I'm happy to work with you to find a home or to sell a home that is much newer. But I got to admit, my heart is with the older homes. And so this one, listed at $315,000. This is at 802 Lawsonville Avenue in Reidsville, North Carolina. This is 25 miles outside the city of Greensboro. It is in a town that has all the amenities that you would look for in restaurants and shopping and those sorts of things, but it's a much slower pace of life and a smaller population. Lots of historic homes. This is one great example. The owners have taken this home and done a great deal of the up-to-date restoration work for you. First, let's talk about what does it mean to live in an old home. I know a woman a few years ago who said to me, I never want to live in an old home. I grew up in one. I hated it. And she listed all of the negatives and omitted all of the positives. Well, the positives are numerous. If you're going to live in an old home, there are some negatives. I will admit, sometimes it's hard to open a window. Sometimes the floor, maybe always the floor, has some hips and valleys. I'll show you in a moment. There's a door that is not standard height. I have already smacked my head into the top of that door frame. But the good things, the pros that come with an old home, you can't buy. It's like an old friend. Dolly Parton sang that song, You Can't Make Old Friends, You Can't Make Old Homes. And there are all those videos out there that talk about building a new home to make it feel old. There is no true replacement for an old home. Truly old brings things to the table like this newel post. This newel post, you can't buy that at Lowe's. The spindles. Look at that fretwork behind me. These are things that were made by craftsmen in the early 20th century who took great pride in their work and had really mastered the craft of their work. Some things you're going to find, depending on the time period of the home, were made by hand. Some were machine made. Either way, you're going to find things that are made by materials, out of materials, that, in my opinion, are simply better quality. One of the things you're going to have to give up with an old home, you might not have the same level of convenience. And I want to talk about that for just a second, especially in regards to windows. If you buy a modern vinyl window, they're going to sell you on something called maintenance free. What does maintenance free really mean? I think it means it cannot be fixed. Maintenance free means if there's a real problem, you're going to have to replace it. This home has its original windows, over 100 years. And so I think about those types of things when I'm looking at an old home. Are the materials used going to last? And I'm not a fan of a vinyl window. And I know the convenience factor. I know it's nice to flip those tabs, lift it up, raise it, lower it down. But an older home with those old windows, you can list to me the negatives, but the positives are they last. They really do last. The quality of wood that went into making those, Not to mention the wood that went into making the walls, the floors. Old growth lumber, tighter rings on those trees means more years. The trees are older. I mentioned to my dad over spring break something about the type of wood that we buy in Lowe's nowadays. He said it's called whitewood. But when I go out into the forest, where's the white tree? What is that even? And it's like we've left even the name. Is it pine or poplar? What kind of wood are we using nowadays? In an old home, you're going to find old growth lumber. In this home, let's take a quick look. I'm going to take the phone off of its stand, walk through with you. It is empty, so you're going to hear lots of clacking as I walk through. But I want you to see a solid tour of the home, and I think it will strike you just as it did me that this is a charming, charming home. Out front, we see that this is a pretty symmetrical front. It's not exactly symmetrical, but fairly. It feels like the farmhouse that you keep saving pictures of and inspiration from all over your Pinterest boards. And it's got this enormous porch, wraps around 3 sides, has 3 entrances. Porch is very deep. New steps coming up, new sidewalk coming up. Look at that haint blue ceiling, these drop down pendant lights, original wood siding. This is a porch that screams for you to come out and take a nap, for you to host your friend and have a cup of coffee. There's one entrance, and there's one just like it on the other side. Take a look at this window. Up top, you have that decoration that's so specific, I think, to the early 20th century and late 19th century in America. It's got American craftsmen suggestions. I don't know that this home is exactly American craftsman, but it leans in that direction, and also has some Victorian influence, especially with that fretwork. Come in, you have an enormous central hall. This central hall is, I'm looking at probably 9 feet across, and then it narrows a little bit. That door goes down into your basement crawl space. It is a basement crawl space that would not be livable. It is for utilitarian function only. But it's cool down there. If you wanted to do cellar food storage, it would work. You look to the immediate left, we go into a front parlor. They've taken care to keep the original woodwork. They did not restore the original woodwork, though. So they left it with a chippy paint. You could certainly leave it that way as is, or restore it yourself. Anybody know what that strip is going around the ceiling? That is a picture rail. And they've even used it. So here with a clip, your wire comes down to hold the picture. Original fireplace. I do not know about the status of the chimneys or the fireplaces. If I owned a home like this, though, I would want them to function. A feature of the home in its historicity. This home was the childhood home of Walter Hooper. Does that name ring a bell? Got a picture here of a lion. And down at the bottom, you've got Reverend Walter Hooper. And it's because Walter Hooper was the author and aide to the renowned writer C.S. Lewis, Clive Staples Lewis. So this is the home that Walter grew up in. Because of that, it does come with some preservation restrictions. And if you were interested in the home, we would have to look at those a little more in depth. This too, front room could be used as a bedroom, could be used as a library or some other sitting room or a music room. This is not a small room, and this is not a small house. Directly off of this room, we go into another bedroom. This has been treated as the primary bedroom on ground floor. It has its own fireplace. It has a closet. It has access to the front porch that I mentioned. And it has an ensuite bath. One of those things, early 1900s bathrooms, you're going to see a lot of white. And so here they've used the penny tile, hexagon tile, original tub. They've updated the surround. And they kept the beadboard. And this is, I believe, original beadboard because it is not in huge, long, wide panels. These are strips, tongue groove strips. I love that nice little schoolhouse light. And another one there. We leave this bedroom back into the center hall, across the way, into a very spacious dining room. These are looking like, I think, between 9 and 10 foot ceilings. I did not measure. Another fireplace, and there's your other access to the front porch, the side porch rather. Off of this, we step right into the kitchen, and the kitchen is really quaint. Think about the movie, if you've ever seen it, Fried Green Tomatoes. Similar time period. This house is a little earlier than when that movie was first set. But these cabinets, the red, we even have a refrigerator over here. So vintage. It does work. I open it up. It's chilled inside. They've done a lot to stage this home without filling the home. They've done a lot to make it feel a little bit more period and to give you an impression of what it could feel like if it were decorated as such. Yes, that wall is a chalk wall or a chalkboard wall. They've treated this as a dine-in kitchen with the little table right here in the middle. I think that works great. It's not the center island that we see all the time in modern homes, but it functions similarly. And then, like I said, right next door is your regular dining table, dining room. Off of your kitchen, we step into a very spacious mudroom. This mudroom is not tiny. Here you have your hookups for washer and dryer. They have included the extra doors where they took those off throughout the house. For example, right here, the door leading from the kitchen back into the mudroom, hinges are still installed where there used to be a door here. If the homeowner wanted those doors reinstalled, they're certainly available. They've included a peg rack along the back wall here, and there is another exterior door. So there is one exterior door on all 4 sides of the home. Here's the tiny door. I told you there was a tiny door where I smacked my head. There she is. This is something I believe my grandmother would call the press. Could you step over to the press and get me a jar of carrots? So you step into the press and you have pantry storage galore. Here they're using it for paint and light bulbs. You do what you need to do, but this is a coveted little bit of real estate in a home, pantry storage. We come back to our central hall. We're going to head upstairs. Wide, gracious stairs. And as we reach the top, there is so much space. Like I said, about 9 feet across this central hall. There is enough space here for an entire sitting area. I imagine a grandfather clock. I imagine built-in bookcases. I imagine watching the snow fall at Christmas time. And maybe even having a huge Christmas tree because this window is the central window. It's right on the axis and overlooks the front pediment of the home. Turning around, there are the stairs we just ascended. We see full bath. So full bath here. There are 2 full baths in the home. This one also with the hexagon penny tile, a claw-footed tub, new tile surround, and those wonderful tall ceilings again with the schoolhouse lights. This one has a nice little linen closet built in. And like I said about the woodwork, they have kept this original woodwork with the chippy paint. Certainly up to you if you wanted to keep that or restore it. Here's your attic access. I already checked up there. New HVAC throughout the entire home. Very spacious bedroom. Another fireplace, closet. Another bedroom. also with its own closet and fireplace. Bedrooms are all very similarly sized. And then this one, maybe one of my favorites. This one has the green trim, huge windows. These windows are easily 3 by 5, 3 by 6. And off of this bedroom, you have what they have styled as a playroom. It is so charming. This little area would be magical. I imagine 6-year-old Zach playing in here when I was little, and this would be a whole other world. We have stepped through into Narnia. I told you in the beginning, there are some real pros and some cons to living in a historic home. And I think, in fairness, I should mention some of the cons. The cons are you're moving into a home that has been lived in. It bears the scars, marks, and tattoos of many, many other families, or maybe one other family. Sometimes you get a home that's been lived in by one family continuously. I will warn against homes that have been unoccupied for long periods of time. I tell people that a house takes a harder beating when it is empty than when it is full. And so if you have a family living in it, yeah, you're taking a toll on those corners and on the floors and on the pipes. It's worse if the home sits empty for a long period of time. Another downside is there's not a lot of wipe it off because it's plastic. You know, those things are modern inventions. If it's plastic, you can wipe it off and it's just as good as new. If it's wood, stone, brick, glass, those things are going to require a different level of maintenance. But I think it pays back in dividends. It just over and over and over pays back on that investment. Another downside, an older home may have some noise to it. Insulation may be present, may not be present. These windows are not double thickness for the glass. It is a single thickness. So you would need to think about that as it pertains to noise, as it pertains to temperature. It's not a problem for me. I look at it like, how did they do it 100 years ago? You would have storms and screens. And so I would just, rather than replacing the wood windows, and in this historic home that does have preservation restrictions, I imagine they want you to save those windows. You're going to get storms and screens that get installed. There's a clip over each window, 2 clips. It fits right into place snugly. And then that storm window, you take it down in the spring and summer to let the breeze come through. You put its screen in its place, and you reverse when cold weather comes back around again. I think that's worth it to have the beauty of the windows, to have the age and the longevity of the windows. And then look around. This space that I'm sitting in, it just doesn't feel like it was built last year. There is no cold gray, or I think Sherwin-Williams calls it agreeable gray. I don't agree with that. It's disagreeable gray. These are warm colors, warm, beautiful floors. Children have skipped across these floors. Christmas trees have stood on these floors. Bowls of soup have been spilled on these floors. I love that. I like a home that has some history. And if you want a home that has some history, you should buy a historic home, not one that was built last year. I'll say this. When you go house shopping, you walk through the house, and you may be thinking about the money. It's very important. Please do not buy a home you can't afford. You may be thinking about the insulation and the roof and what kind of gutters it has and those sorts of things. All of those matter. All of those matter. You may also walk through the house and think about where we're going to put the Christmas tree. Is there enough room here for us to grow our family, have another child? Or if Mom and dad need to downsize. Could they move in with us? Is there room in the back to build on a mother-in-law suite, that sort of thing? Also, look around and think about a holiday. We've just passed Easter. This room wants to have Easter dinners. Imagine large bouquets of daffodils and a carved ham on the table. Easter egg hunt out back with the kids and the grandkids. It is a house that takes work. But that work is the living. That work is worth it because it allows the home to keep going. And I'm of the mindset that work is a good thing. God gave us work even before Adam and Eve sinned. That work is what keeps us going. My encouragement to you today is to think about, is a historic home for me? Certainly at $315,000, this house is giving you a lot more, in some ways, than a brand new house is. And with brand new electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, maybe it has just enough newness for you. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. This is Zach Roberts, signing off.